Would you pray with me, please? Open my lips that my mouth might show forth your praise. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Do you love yourself as much as your dog loves you? As much, as enthusiastically, as exuberantly, as indiscriminately, some might say as blindly. For you know that both Chaucer and Shakespeare teach us that love is blind. Do you love yourself as much as your dog loves you? Now, that might seem like I'm just being silly up here asking silly questions, but I really think that this is the most important question. Maybe the most important question. Do you love yourself as much as your dog loves you? I think that we humans love our dogs so much for the simple reason that they love us so much. And I'm not saying that as a narcissist or because I'm in some sort of codependent relationship with my dogs or I'm otherwise emotionally unhealthy. I'm saying this because we humans know deep down, beneath our intellectual thinking, in that deep well of feeling that we often can't even put into words, but which draws us into life, that our dogs simply love us the way we need to be loved. Now, please, don't poo-poo simple reasons. Simple is often a great reason because it's uncomplicated. It's just itself. It doesn't have all these other contingencies, which is what love is, what a dog's love is. It's simple. It's just itself as itself for you as yourself. Because it's how the dog is as herself and brings the dog pleasure knowing herself. Dogs enjoy showing their love for us. So do you love yourself as simply as your dog loves you? And I'd bet the answer is simply no. My dog loves me better than I love myself. And I love my dog often better than I love anyone else. And I think this is because our self-love is formed through the lens of how others see us. We humans need a mirror or many mirrors to see ourselves. Mirrors we choose and mirrors we are given. And the mirrors we are given and the mirrors we choose are highly flawed in how they reflect back to us who we are because they come to us through the eyes of others. And we humans are very complicated. And by complicated, I mean broken. And by broken, I mean lacking in self-love. Not simple, complicated, just like a mirror that has been cracked. We see ourselves as others see us, and they tend to see our flaws and our failures first. Because that's the lens that they see themselves with. And the circle goes round and round and round as we see each other as failures and flaws. Now, a man named Jack Bernard, who's a pastor at the Sojourners Church out in San Francisco, once wrote, "The key element in beginning to learn to embody the love of God is not heroic faith or determination." Think about that. Beginning to embody the love of God. That's what this is all about. So the key element is not heroic faith or determination. It has to do with whether or not we can take hold of the love of God as a power that includes us within it. The power of the love of God as a power that includes us within it. The difference is between seeing life from inside God versus seeing it from within my own sensibilities and capacities. Or back to Max Olmstead. Seeing ourselves the way our dogs see us. Because I believe, upon years of personal reflection and pastoral counseling and reading and study, that our own sensibilities and capacities are sadly those of self-doubt and lack of self-love. Thomas, we've just heard, and Kayla did a great intro in the children's message as well. Thomas doubts because he is unable to take hold of the love of God as a power that includes him too. In the story, he's not there at first. But I believe is because his sensibilities and capacities are those of self-doubt, self-loathing, and lack of love for himself, because he's seeing the whole story through the lens of his own flaws and failures. His Lord is dead, and he, Thomas, and the circle of best friends know that they let him down and ran away. But Jesus comes through the locked door, which I'm going to come back to in a moment, and invites Thomas to put his hands and his fingers into the very wounds of Thomas's flaws and failures. Not to shame him, because shame is the language of the eyes of how others see us. Shame and blame that never gets you anywhere on the spiritual path. Jesus invites Thomas into the power of God's love. To know that Jesus' love for Thomas, exactly the way he is and was, is more powerful than Thomas's limited capacities and sensibilities of self-doubt, self-loathing, lack of self-love. Now, I very rarely quote people, but I've quoted Jack Bernard, and now I'm going to quote my favorite Buddhist, a woman named Pema Chodron, who said, "We cannot do love. We cannot practice loving kindness towards others unless we love ourselves. If we don't love ourselves, we're involved in many other things. We call it love, but it's not love." So I ask you again, do you love yourself as much as your dog loves you? Now, most of us in our lives have had that love reflected back at us, that pure love from others, whether it's in the eyes of our dogs or other pets, whether we've been blessed by having a special friend or two who's able to look past our flaws and failures and sees us, whether it's in our marital relationship or even just parts of our marital relationship, like when we were courting and there was this infatuation, or when we were newlyweds, or when there wasn't too much stress because of work or children. Or maybe it's because we've been married so long that we just gave up striving with one another and enjoy each other's company because we are who we are. I thought about that this week, about Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth all those years, 70 years. Maybe you've seen that pure love when you've held a toddler in your arms and they grip you around the neck. And I oddly feel it in nature. Oddly, I say oddly, but I can be in a reverie watching the birds and the sun and the water, and what comes back at me is love. This sense of, you too, Max, you are as beautiful as this. But the sad truth is that all of us mostly live messy, complicated, incomplete lives because we are loving and being loved by messy, complicated, incomplete people just like ourselves. And so we go through life doubting our loveliness, our love ability. Because we see our flaws and failures, we close ourselves in behind shut doors. We resist simple love. We're afraid to allow people to fully love us, and we don't dare to reach out in pure love without some other motivation. My friends, none of us can undo the story of our lives, the messiness of our childhood homes, the messiness of growing up, the striving and comparison of schools and sports and dating and work and success and failure. But we can choose to be resurrected like Jesus and like Thomas this morning. To learn to embody the love of God, to take hold of the power of God, which includes even us. To see life from the inside of God, which is simply simple love. Just like the way our dogs love us. So I mentioned Pema Chodron, and I learn a lot from her. I really do. And I want to lead you in a little meditation about loving kindness for yourself this morning. This is why this is coming last and not the prayers. So I'd invite all of you, wherever you are, to close your eyes if that feels safe and comfortable. And just settle down for a moment into your breath. And this is a visualization meditation. I'd like you to visualize someone who is your benefactor. Someone who only wished or wishes you well, like your dog. Maybe it's a parent. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's Jesus or the Virgin Mary or the Dalai Lama or a coach or a teacher, your wife or your husband. Someone who loves you. And as you visualize them, see them looking right at you with eyes of love. Feel the energy of that love coming at you. It might make you blush. It might make you want to laugh or run away. It might make you want to end this meditation and jump up and run around the house. But just see the love coming at you and see your benefactor surrounded by love, loving you just as you are. And feel how your heart just warms.